Alright, hey guys, what's going on? This is Chris, and I'm just going to go over how to set up the cameras. So right now I have the forest level loaded, just something to work with. Let's go find a nice area to work with this. So let's see. Alright, good. Got some little crates over here. Alright, so first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to go to View, Open View Pane, and then go down to your database view. Drag that over onto the screen. So you go Prefabs Library tab, you open it up, and it's going to be called FE Camera Effects. Now, the way I have, after you load this, you can just close it. The way I have these cameras set up is to a 16:9 ratio. So 1280 by 720, 1920 by 1080 is all fine. If you want to do a 16:10 ratio, you'll need to open up that XML file, which is over here, and you can see for each camera. So let's scroll on the first one. We have standard field of view. If you scroll over to any of the geo entities over here, geometry entities, and if you scroll through it, you'll see that there's an entry for scale. Now, these numbers you don't need to change because it's going to be your height. But if you want to change it to 16:10 ratio, you're going to need to edit all these numbers for each camera that you want to use, and there's going to be two scales that you're going to need to change for each camera because there's two different planes that have the effects on it. But if you want to just keep it to our normal resolutions, you don't need to worry about that. So let's get back in here. Alright, so the first thing you want to do, on your right hand side, go to your prefabs, prefab. Now since we opened it in the database viewer, it'll show up in our browser. If you didn't do it through the database, it won't show up here at all. So for this, I'll just use 85mm camera so I can get more depth through it. So Shift F5. Alright, turned off the helpers, so I don't know when this is going to spawn. It's in the ground, okay. Let's move it up a little bit. So when you extract it, you're going to get this gigantic box because it's a prefab of all the entities. Now, when I had constructed this in my map, I didn't realize I had everything rotated, and all the cameras are kind of rotated to their origin. As you can see, it's not squared off there. So when you are manipulating it, it's a little bit trickier, but it's fine. So we just scroll down while the camera is selected and do extract all. Now it'll select our camera. Right click over here on perspective, camera, and then select your camera. Now you'll see, why is my safe frame on? I don't know how to disable that. Anyway, this is it. This is the camera view. Get rid of these helpers, make life a little bit easier. So with this camera selected, because we clicked on it earlier, make sure you click on it before you go into the camera view. We'll use our translate or move mode, and then you'll use these little scrollers at the bottom to move the camera up and down. And where the hell did I just go? Alright. Computer's lagging a lot while I'm recording, so it's a little bit harder to do. So you can just, move it around like this. Like I said, it's a little bit weird because of the way I had it rotated when I made it. But, nothing too hard to deal with. So there's a nice little scene going on here. Rotate the camera. Same thing with rotate. It's a little bit like using like a camera dolly or a tripod, so it's really not too hard to work around. But like I said, not exactly the easiest because of the way it's rotated. So let's get this a little bit more in focus. Through a little more. I'm just trying to set up something this way, like when we put in the depth, it'll kind of come through a little bit. So I guess this looks good enough. So right now everything is kind of in focus. And using this field of view, which I think we're on 28 for the 85mm camera, it's a little bit more zoomed in of a picture, but it kind of puts it more in a, I don't know, I guess realistic shape than, let's say, if I were to change this to 60. Obviously now my thing doesn't work, but you can see, you just see too much of the angles, and especially if you set to something higher than 60, now you can see the corners are starting to stretch into the picture and kind of bend towards the center, which, you know, isn't exactly realistic. So let's change this back to 28. And now the first thing we're going to do, we're going to enable depth of field through the time of day. So if you click on that, bring it over here, you'll see you have all these values over here. So there's only 2 values to change here. Blur amount, I like to just put at 1, just so you can get a nice, this is just for the background blur. Until I find a better way to do it, this will be fine. So I'll just try using the distance 25. I'm going to keep this off screen for the time being. So if you see what I'm doing, I'm kind of blurring out the background. So let's increase that focus again. You can see that the pier and everything in the back is now in focus with the C out of focus, but that's too much of a focus range for this camera, so let's put it down to something smaller. So 25 is going to keep just this initial dock in our focus, and everything else will be kind of blurred out a little bit, which is fine. Okay, next, we're going to add the depth of field through the camera. So let's right click, go to our default camera, show our camera so we can actually make sure it's selected. Right click our camera icon and do create photograph. You can do none, doesn't matter. This isn't like perfect, this is just for the means of using the camera. So if you right click it without moving, we'll do add node image and then depth of field. So now for this, we're going to hit enabled flag, uncheck the disabled flag, check the enabled depth of field flag, and then just going to do some guesswork on these values. Do 6.5, focus range, let's try 10, and blur amount we'll make 0.75. The blur amount, when you have it too high, it ends up blurring out the screen overlay effects I have for the camera, because those are a plane floating in front of the camera rather than on the screen. So until I get that fixed, this is kind of, you use a lower blur amount, which is fine for most things, unless you want to get some different effect, you don't have to. With those values, if you hit play, it might not work right away. I've noticed that it doesn't always work, so let's get in our camera, turn off these stupid helpers, and I can't really tell if it's working or not, so let's stop it. It's on my other screen right now, sorry, but what I'm doing right now is I'm changing the blur amount. Sometimes you have to set to something ridiculously high and then hit play. There you go. So you can see that's working, so it's set back down to 0.75. So now you can see I blurred out most of the backgrounds and kept now only that dock really in focus, and even the initial cages over here kind of a little bit blurred out, and it, you know, creates a sense of depth with these further things more blurred, and then everything further out there even more blurred, which is what we want. I actually think these values are fine. I'm going to just try something different for the focus range real quick. Try set it to 12. I think I'll get at 10 because it kind of makes the foreground a little bit more blurred, slightly. Yeah, so we'll keep it like that. So you can't really tell probably from this video, but I mean there's a little bit of blurring going on these cages in the front, which is nice because they shouldn't be in prime focus. We want kind of this cage, the pole maybe, the dock, and this fence in focus to contrast the background. So that's pretty much it for the camera setup. Now to take this screenshot, there's a couple other things we could do. First thing I like to do is enable global illumination through time of day. So if we bring that back into screen, you'll see this is our value set. You can go pretty high. I usually keep it at like 1 or 2. So let's try 1 out. So if you can't really tell what that did, it just kind of added some more lighting to the outside of this, and anything that was in darker areas kind of got a little bit more light bounce. If I set something like 5, you'll see it really lights up everything, and it just doesn't look right unless there was a light right there. So let's keep out. Let's see 2. I like 1 better. 1 looks nice. Now another thing we're going to do is we're going to enable SSAO. So if you right click on your little console entry, it'll bring up console variables. This makes it a little bit easier than having to type in every single command perfectly. So we set that to 2. You'll see that we kind of made our scene a little bit darker. The shadows kind of have more spread and more fill, which I think kind of makes it a little bit nicer to look at. Then there's a couple of other commands I'm going to type in, but I'm not going to explain them because I'll just have them posted up in a text on the video on the page. These are just kind of small little modifiers for depth of fields that kind of increase the quality a little bit when you have multi-sampling on, which we'll get to later. So right now I'm just changing the filter and the quality. Why isn't that working? 2? Yeah, 1. 1's fine. Okay, that's good enough. Alright, so now we have that all set up. Think we could change the lighting around a little bit. So, I mean, to do this, you could just open up your lighting tool. You know, you could do view, open, and then lighting tool, whatever that is. I already have it open. Say, you know, let's try and get more of a shadow going on. So when you change the time of day, you might have to go back and re-enable those global illumination values because they will change depending on the time of day. So let's see. Don't want a shadow going right over the cage. Just change the sun direction. Kind of like that. Let's rotate it. A little bit higher sun like that. Yeah, I like the way that looks. Why not? Just go back and change the global illumination if you have to. And anything else. Sorry if I sound a little bit weird. I have a sinus infection from allergies and everything right now. It's killing me. So, sure. I like the way this is looking. Let's see, actually. Kind of don't like how that one stands out a little bit. Let's change the light a little bit. That's good. I just didn't like how that pole was standing out too much with the light. It's kind of weird though, the shadow goes right on that. Let's change that a little bit more. Alright, that's fine. Nope, keeps going back. Okay, let's keep it like that. It's good enough. Alright, so now that that's done, let's enable the color graphs, or color grading. So, once again, I'm just going to do that through here, since it's easier to do. So we'll change color grading, it's already set to 2, alright, and color, alright, they're already set. So the only command we have to enter is that really long one, which I kind of have right here. Right now I have 2 of them uploaded to the SVN. So that didn't really look like it changed much, but you could kind of tell in the background if I turn off color grading. Yeah, it's going to be really hard to see from this, but one of them makes it kind of a little bit more vibrant, and if we were to change that to something else, like I have another one, let's see, can I paste this? I can't. Okay, so let's change this to Juno. Why does it not look like it's even showing up? Color grading charts, 2, 1. Okay, it is. I just can't really tell right now. Oh. Try entering it here. Okay, whatever. It's working. So now we have our color grading set up. With this image, though, there's really not that much color that was different from my color charts. That's why it doesn't really look like it's doing much. If I brought it someplace else, of course everything's going to be out of focus now. Everything's kind of a little bit darker. The red's weren't even included in there, but the vegetation and everything kind of matches what we wanted, which is fine. And so let's get back to our camera now. Alright, so now we're here. A couple more commands we're just going to enter in here to make everything a little bit easier. So, head through here. We're going to change the dynamic texture size to 255. This will help when you do the multi-sampling, because it usually has issues with that. Let's change the super sampling filter to 2. And what that does is it's just a different edge filter when you enable it. Now, the last thing you would do, let's change display info so we don't have that floating around on our heads-up display. There you go. The only thing I don't know how to disable is this floating text when you hover over something, which is somewhat annoying once you change the screen size. But when we're taking our screenshots, there's only 2 more commands we need to do, which is just, what is it, capture? Yeah, capture. So we're going to do capture frames once. I'm going to set that to 1. This way, when you enable capture frames, it'll only take a single screenshot instead of taking, hundreds of them, which will fill up the folder. Through here, you can also change this from JPEG to PNG, maybe, or bitmap. And this is the name of the output folder, which is the regular install directory, not even game. I think just a regular install directory. Then you can put prefix and other names in there, so we're not going to do that. So let's just say we capture. Alright, so now we should only have 1 picture. So if I bring up my folder, you'll see I was messing around earlier with some of this stuff. So let's see. And so yeah, this looks like our picture. Now you can see it's pretty much whatever our viewport size is what it'll capture. So we only have it set to 1280 by 720, so it's not really that big, and you can see the quality of the edges kind of looks a little bit weird, especially here, kind of blurring. Let's change that until we enable the super sampling. But before that, I just noticed that I don't like the way that the materials are showing up. So we're going to go through and change those real quick. Textures. Materials. Okay. So grain will change how much. Oh, now the color correction. Okay. Okay, so I just ran out of hard drive space because it was cramping my SSD. Anyway, for whatever reason, the color grading decided to start working out of nowhere. And I don't know if I got cut off in my last part. If I did, I'll just cut that out later. But you could see that these 2 color charts kind of don't really fit into the colors of this level too well because, I didn't make them for this, and the colors just don't exist. So you can see it kind of looks a little bit dark and washed out because there's no reds or browns or any of those colors in the current color chart that I'm using. I'll just keep it on. Actually, no, I'm going to turn it off. I really don't like the way that looks. It's too desaturated. Color gradient set to 0. Okay, so we have that now. Our image that we want. Like I was trying to do earlier. If you go through here, you can kind of change how much the film grain appears in here. So I'm just going to adjust the slider so you guys can see. So and as you do that, it'll also make the whole image darker just because more of the black parts of the image are going to show up, which is the noise. So I don't want to make it too noisy. Kind of keep it around here. Once you turn on super sampling, it'll be more apparent. You can really tell too well from here. Probably can't tell at all with the quality, but I'm sure you could see that. So we'll just keep it around here. I'm going to change the borders to it. You can see I turn that off, turn on a lot. Kind of helps sell the depth of the image too, because it cuts out that extra lighting that you don't need in the image. Make it more like a photograph. Or at least make it look like it's not a video game. Alright, so all that looks fine. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to turn on super sampling through here. So let's make that 2. Now what it just did was it kind of made my resolution twice as big for the area being. If you can see the text floating around, it's a lot smaller. The only thing is, if you hover off the screen, it kind of pretends that you're still in the editor, and then this stupid text for the model still displays. I have no idea how to turn that off. I'm just gonna kind of ignore that. So I end up moving my console off screen pretty far just so you could enter the commands without having something pop up. It's fine. So with that enabled, I could set that to 3. I don't recommend setting it to anything higher, especially at that resolution. Probably crash a computer. This might crash everything. Pray that doesn't. Doesn't look like it's going to. So you kind of see everything's getting a lot more sharp, a lot more crisp. Details really pop out a lot more, and everything's just really smooth, which is perfect for what we want to do. You couldn't play in this because the frame rate is maybe 1 every second right now. So what I'm doing right now is I'm just entering the capture once command and the capture frames command in console on the side. We're trying to at least give it a minute. Okay, so 0 and just making sure my mouse isn't hovering over anything. It's not. And let's do 1. And give it a minute because we're not getting a refresh yet. Don't know if it took the screenshot or not. Let's find out. Alright, so time taken. Not gonna give me that. Cool. It does look a lot smoother than what I showed earlier, so I'm gonna just say it's safe to assume that it did go off. It definitely did. 100% did. Not really a rough edge anywhere that's visible from this low resolution of a picture too, which is nice. So now to get a bigger resolution picture, there are the commands for custom res width and custom res height. But we're not going to use those because when you capture the screenshot, it does it to a weird size, and then you have to resize it. And once you resize it, you're losing quality once you do that. So we're going to do only resolutions we can use. So let's change this super sampling back to 1 so I can actually use my computer. Any day now. Computer's not happy. Alright. There we go. Alright, so we're back in here. Now to change the resolution, you're going to right click on the top of your viewport, and you have some. I have a couple in here already. Forgot what the file is to edit these, but you could edit them to add in more because custom doesn't do anything. I think that's just if you could drag to resize the viewport. So if you have a bigger monitor, you might be able to get away with that. For me, I'm just going to do 1920 by 1080. So it's going to resize the whole entire screen. And now that we're back on super sampling 1, which is our default, just to get the AA, you can see quality kind of went down a little bit. And for this resolution, sometimes I could run it in 3, but my graphics card doesn't have much memory, so I usually just keep it to 2. At that point, I'm already at nearly maximum video RAM, which sucks, but what are you gonna do? So changing that to 2 never refreshes. Kind of see just all the harsh edges went away, any artifacts with transparency with these cages kind of went away. And you get a really clean picture, and With this, I'm just going to take a screenshot. I mean, 2 looks good enough. You could always increase it to something higher. Oh my god. My lightning fast computer to be able to do this. Did we freeze? We froze, okay. Waiting for the editor crash. Any second now. Alright, so what I'm doing right now is I'm just doing the capture frames command again. You don't need to reset the frames or capture frame once command, you just need to reset the capture frames command from 0 to 1. You might actually be able to re-enter it in console as 1, but oh. No, I'm fine, thanks Windows. Appreciate it. Okay, so I just entered it at 1. I can't really tell if I'm taking the screenshot or not. And I also just realized that my mouse was hovering over something, so I had text floating around the screen, which is no good. So let's change that back to 0. And change it back to 1. Okay. And now we should have a screenshot. So let's go to our screenshot folder. Oh dear. It looks like at one point I turned off frames once because I have 300 frames. Alright, that's fine. Yeah, this is 1920 by 1080. So with this you end up getting the full resolution screenshot that you want. And I guess with that concludes our little video. I'll have all the console commands I type posted on the forums. And I think you could throw that into like an auto executable config file or something like that. I was reading about that on the forums, and that can make life a little bit easier so you don't have to re-enter them every single time. But for that, that's it.